Welcome to Voice Notes interviews here on the Brand Muslim channel. My name is Habib Patel. These interviews are conducted solely on Voice Notes to highlight Muslim storytellers. This interview is with the journalist Sundus Abdi. Sundus has been a journalist with The Guardian for almost 2 years at the time of this recording. She received The Guardian's Scott Trust Foundation bursary to study for her master's degree. She graduated from the University of Birmingham and gained her master's in the city of Leeds. She also holds a National Diploma in journalism. She has written about everything from the power of the printed hijab during London Fashion Week to the new school henna scene in the UK, covering henna artist groups such as Huck That. She has even covered the screaming trend, where people meet in parks to let out pent-up energy and frustration with people in their community. Sundus is a proud British Somali Muslim hijabi who takes every opportunity to cover stories of the underrepresented, and we have a feeling we will be hearing a lot of her in the future. Assalamu alaikum, Sundus, and welcome to this Brand Muslim Voice Note interview.
Wa alaikum salam, Habib. Thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure is all ours, Sundus. Sundus, please tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure, I can do. Well, I'm British Somali. I grew up in Birmingham for most of my life, so I'm a very, very proud BRUMMIE. And now I'm living in London, and I'm also a journalist.
That's amazing, Sundus. You say you're a proud BRUMMIE. Why do you love Birmingham so much?
I think what's great about Birmingham is that it's so multicultural and so diverse. I'm very lucky to have grown up around people from all sorts of cultures and backgrounds and learn bits of every language or main language that there is in Birmingham. So I think that's something that I really love about it. And also I think it's got one of the best food scenes in the UK, and I don't want to debate about that.
I can vouch for the fact that it's got a great food scene. Sundus, tell me about the first piece of storytelling you can remember in your life.
I don't know if this is the first ever story that I heard or had seen, but I vividly remember watching Lion King because my family were kind of old school, even though I was born in the early 2000s and DVD was very much up and running by then. We had a VHS tape of The Lion King and I watched it with my family and my auntie, and I remember being very moved by that. It was. I just remember crying a lot when I was a child about that film while watching it, and like feeling deep emotions, watching Simba struggle through his childhood, losing his father, and then growing up as an adult and eventually becoming king. So I remember being very, very touched by that story. And I always think back to it, and it's actually one that I can't go back to because it just makes me sad every time I think of it. So I actually don't think I've watched Lion King since about 2005.
Thank you, Sundus. Why journalism? What drew you to this form of storytelling? Why is this such a vital part of your life?
I think what drew me to journalism is I've always been interested in storytelling and writing. I think English was my strongest subject in secondary school and during my A-levels. And I really enjoyed writing in different styles. I really enjoyed creative writing. I had the chance to write some articles as well when I was in school, just for my coursework. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed writing about lots of different topics. But with journalism in particular, I think there's been a long-standing history of distrust with the media from people from certain backgrounds, particularly people that belong to backgrounds similar to my own. And I remember growing up seeing a lot of things in the media that I didn't think were reflective or true of the communities that I belong to, and just understanding why and how that distrust has come about. And I think I also wanted to make sense of the world for myself or for other people. I feel like I learned a lot consuming media and reading newspapers as a child, and it was a lot more than what my family or like immediate people around me were able to teach me. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and I wanted to contribute to that. I think ultimately for me it's about learning, and I feel very fortunate that in the short time that I've been a journalist, I've been able to learn about so many different things going on in the UK, in the world, different communities that I might not have been aware of. I think it's such a good way to learn about people and the world around us.
That's totally inspiring, Sundus. Thank you for that. Does The Guardian feel like a good home for your ideas?
I think it does. I think because it's a national publication with such wide reach and a massive audience, with a lot of them being people who have power and resources and access, I think that some of the stories that are published in there will really motivate people to, fight for change in big or small ways. So I think it's a really good place to kind of get some of the stories that I've been doing heard and recognised.
Tell us about the most unusual story you've told at The Guardian.
I think the most unusual or unexpected story that I've told is about scream clubs. So last autumn, there was this social media phenomenon, particularly on TikTok, where young people were meeting up in parks to just scream for like a couple of minutes. And I thought it was quite interesting. And the story came to me through social media, but my younger sister, who is even more of a Gen Z than I am, asked me if I could do a story about it, and I thought, yeah, why not? That actually is a good story. Sometimes I think she has a better news sense than me. So I went along to one of these Scream Club meetups, and it was on a Monday afternoon in Hyde Park, and I didn't know what to expect. I think it was their first meetup as well. So I went down and met all these cool people, young and old, all different types of ages. And they just screamed for about 30 seconds in the park, and then took a break and laughed about it and recorded themselves, and then started screaming again. But it was an unusual story, but also I think it spoke to this sense of community that young people need these days, and how people are using online and digital spaces to kind of create communities for themselves and meet new people and get out of their comfort zone, because lots of the people that I met there were young people who were looking to do just that.
That sounds like a really fun story to cover. I do remember reading it as well. What are the values you hold dear in your work and in your life?
I think with work, the value that I hold most dear to me is being truthful and making sure that I accurately represent people. Sometimes that means having like more nuance in stories and complex takes and like breaking down that complex information. But I also think it's really important to just be approachable and treat people as humans no matter what you're doing. I think that's also a value that I hold in my life. And yeah, just being kind. I also think these values and beliefs that I have are rooted in my faith as a Muslim, and that definitely inspires my everyday work and everyday life and how I show up in the world.
That's clear to see in your stories. Thank you, Sundus. What does the word storytelling mean to you?
I think storytelling for me means helping make sense of a very complex and complicated world that we live in, and using different mediums to do so, just to share our experiences, to get to know one another, to help us as humans understand each other and the world around us and the environments that we live in. I think that's what storytelling means to me.
Again, that's really clear to see in your work, Sundus. You say you like to tell stories of the underrepresented. Why is that important to you?
Telling underrepresented stories for me is important because, first and foremost, I am from these communities. So, a lot of the times I'm interested in certain things because that's just what I'm interested in or what the people around me are interested in. And I think that's a big part of journalism and storytelling as a whole. It's also important because there's so much that the media gets wrong. There's so much misinformation and disinformation that leads to, really negative and dangerous effects on real life people. There's so many impacts on people because of, this lack of understanding about certain communities and demonization. So I think it's important to kind of tell the everyday stories just so people are aware and, feel less frightened about things that they don't understand, especially in this day and age where, the far right is on the rise. It's a difficult time, not just in the UK, but just across the Western world and also the world as a whole. It's a difficult time for people from marginalised communities living in the Western world, but also for people across the world. I think it's also important for people to be represented and feel represented in the media. And I do think that that's getting better, especially compared to when I was growing up in the early 2000s. But there's still so much more work to be done. And I think the only way to push through and, get through this is to be the change that you want to see in the world. And that's something I really believe in.
That's powerful, Sundus. Thank you. In your view, what is the main opportunity Muslim storytellers have?
I think as Muslims, we're really, really lucky to be from a community that is almost 2 billion strong and spread out all across the world, whether that's South America or East Asia, and of course, Africa and South Asia as well. There's so many of us. We come from all different backgrounds, different cultures, different types of Islam, different experiences in life. And I think that's a really, really unique and strength that we have. But also I feel like we have the really lucky position of being able to bring people into a world that they don't typically get to see or get to understand. And a lot of us are creative. A lot of us are in all types of fields. So it's just because it's such a vast and big community, there's so many different stories that can be told. And that thought just makes me really excited for the future, because I just can't wait for, all the cool creative stuff that will be happening with up and coming Muslim creatives, or not just creatives, people making innovations in the STEM world and other fields. So yeah, that idea really excites me.
I really love that. Thank you, Sundus. That's really great. And finally, what is your aspiration for the future? What are the challenges that you want to tackle?
One of my main aspirations is to continue working in journalism and continue telling stories of people from underrepresented backgrounds, or bringing things to light that people typically haven't or wouldn't hear of. So I'm really looking forward to, developing as a journalist in different mediums and formats, and also to continue reporting. And with challenges, I feel like there's so many. I mean, staying in the industry is one big challenge, especially because I'm from a working class background and it's tough out here. But yeah, again, I don't think that's something that should hold me back. I think that's something that will hopefully propel me forward. So I guess I'm excited to just take on new challenges and, develop as a journalist, which will be challenging, but also will definitely be worthwhile. Yeah.
Really looking forward to reading more of your work. It's really good. I've really been enjoying the work. Sundus Abdi, we'd like to thank you for your valuable time, and we look forward to reading more of your evocative stories. Thank you, Sundus.
Jazakallah, Habib. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I hope you continue to do great things with Brand Muslim.
Thank you, Sundus. That was absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed that interview, and your insights were really, really powerful. Please follow us on Brand Muslim on all of our channels. Follow, subscribe, like, share, and we'll see you for the next one.